in order to do the empire's dirty work. The Islamic State, ISIS, is one such group called on to assist in exacting regime change in Syria. Now, it's true that ISIS wants Syrian President Assad out, but they also want the monarchs out, and ultimately they want the United States out of the region. But wishful thinking regarding their intentions and the ability of the West and their allies to control them are leading to endless suffering for the people in Syria. Nearly 2 years ago, in August of 2013, President Obama was headed towards military escalation when he claimed that Assad had, quote, gassed his own people, unquote. The meme of threatening one's own people is a propaganda tagline that leads to U.S. intervention and doom for the people allegedly being protected by the United States. In 2003, the Bush administration declared that Saddam Hussein was threatening the Iraqi people. And in the ensuing American intervention, 1 million of them died at the hands of their so-called protectors. In 2011, it was Muammar Gaddafi's turn. After the success of, as Hillary Clinton said, we came, we saw, he died, and the deaths of thousands of Libyans, President Obama and NATO set their sights on Syria as the next domino to fall. In August 2013, the Obama administration made the bizarre claim that on the very day that UN chemical weapons inspectors arrived in Syria, that the Assad government would kill a couple of hundred people in a poison gas attack. Anyone with common sense knew that that was a lie, and thanks to good investigative reporting, we know how it was fabricated. But it shouldn't be surprising that a president would invent a cause for war. But the willingness of our corporate media to repeat White House claims without question was particularly disgraceful, but not surprising. Ultimately, a vote in the British Parliament against intervention and a lack of political and popular support for war forced Obama to retreat. But that was temporary. As the most stridently imperialist president in modern history, bided his time and waited for a more opportune moment to strike. In the past year or so, the rise of ISIS has been added as yet another pretext for war. It is true that ISIS is also an enemy of the Syrian government, so if the U.S. really wanted to stop ISIS, it would team up with President Assad for mutual benefit. But ISIS is a child of the U.S., more like a Frankenstein monster created and then threatening its creator. ISIS threatens all parties involved, not just the Syrian government, but the Gulf monarchs. But we are led by mad people who insist on repeating the same acts, but somehow hoping for a different result. The alleged fight against ISIS is nothing more than a fight against Assad. But as always happens when nations collude to interfere with one another, multiple fights with multiple agendas are being waged at once. The government of Turkey has taken the opportunity to fight the Kurds under the guise of fighting ISIS, and that will also play a role in bringing about some unintended and dangerous consequences. I began my remarks by saying that negotiations are means to an end. President Obama may praise President Putin of Russia for the Iran nuclear energy agreement, but the praise should not be taken at face value. That agreement is meant to get America out of a jam with its allies who are tired of stabbing themselves in the back in order to go along with American demands for sanctions and a desire to replace Russian energy with Iranian sources. Iran does get some breathing room from sanctions and gets its money back, as we discussed. The sanctions are killing its economy, but it must pay a very high price for this agreement and agree to 25 years of inspections and the threat of so-called snapback sanctions, which means they can be imposed again at the whim of the Western nations. It's difficult to predict what any of these people will do in the future. We know they're capable of telling very big lies in order to get what they want. We know they're hell-bent on maintaining the imperial project, the project for a new American century, which demands that there be no competing power in the region. Any country not an ally must be weak and destabilized or overrun altogether. Despite the British Parliament no vote in 2013, the UK has participated in American-led bombing attacks, allegedly aimed at ISIS. This is a precursor of the future. The supposedly democratic governments will always find a way to undo democracy in order to wage a war by a variety of means. The answer to this forum question is that we will have both diplomacy and escalation. The escalation will come if the war makers think they can get away with it. At this moment, their increasing desperation means they will swing back and forth from fighting Iran one moment to fighting allies like Israel and Saudi Arabia because they've changed their minds about how much they want to fight Iran because they want to hurt Russia and China more. But one thing is always certain with these sometimes conflicting alliances. We should expect the worst from the imperialist nations and know that their quest to control will never end. Thank you very much.